Everyone, welcome to another sewing video and welcome to the kind of third episode in my new mini series where I make some linen staples. Today we're making another dress. Like I said in the first video, I'm making 3 dresses and then 1 bonus item. But today we're making the final dress and I'm really excited about this one because I'm stepping a little bit out of my comfort zone by going with a different color. Because normally I wear a lot of blue and I recently switched my wardrobe from autumn winter to spring summer, and especially my spring summer wardrobe is just blue. This time I'm going with this beautiful color. It's kind of a berry red, pink, muted pink. I don't know. I'm bad at describing colors, clearly, but it's described as berry on the website, so let's go with berry. Not blue, definitely not blue, but I do feel like this has potential to be really good. This is also the same color or similar color to the listing photos of the pattern, and I really liked how that looked, so yeah, I decided to go with something similar. Speaking of the pattern, this is the Anabelle dress by, let me check, Pattern COS. I don't know, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but I will link it in the description below. It's from Etsy. It's not an AI trap this time, so I feel confident to share this pattern with you. It's again a midi dress. I really like midi dresses, and this one has some spaghetti straps. Other 2 dresses I made have sleeves, and I decided to also make one for more warmer summer days, so spaghetti straps, and it has a really cute ruffle at the hem, and I'm really excited to make this one. I did already change a couple of things, well, not a couple of things, I changed one thing, and that is that instead of using a really tiny facing, I'm going to fully line the bodice of this dress. It's just my preferred way of making a dress. I love a full lining. It also means that I can skip finishing all the seam allowances, which is a plus. I just like how it looks when it's lined on the inside. No one sees the inside, but somehow I care about that. So, let me think. Can we start? Yeah, I already did some prep work, like I usually do, and it is that I already cut out all the pattern pieces. I started with the big skirt piece, because that one has to be cut on the fold, but in a different direction than the other pieces. The other pieces are selvedge to selvedge, and the skirt piece is cut piece to cut piece, you know. So I did that one first so that I knew how much fabric I had left for the rest, and also to see if I even have enough fabric for the lining, because I wasn't sure about that. But I did have enough fabric, so that's fantastic, and I'm now ready to start. Step 1 is my least favorite, which is sewing darts. And the darts are going to be on the bodice, so I've prepped them already. I have them all ready to go, so let's just get this over with. I don't like doing darts. Let's thread my machine, and then I'm going to sew those darts. I'm going to just quickly press them. I also need to sew in my label, and then we can move on to the next step. So I did the darts and I sewed in my label, and now it's time for the side seams of the bodice. So I need to sew, I have 1 set of the bodice here and the other here, so one will be the lining and one will be the outer layer. I'm going to sew the side seams of those, and then, let me think, yeah, then we are actually going to move on to the skirt first before I do something else, because Technically the next step is to make the straps and sew the facing, but I'm not doing the facing, I'm doing the lining, and I don't want to attach the lining until I've put in the zipper. Let's do this first, then move on to the skirt. Bodice pieces are done. This is actually going so quick because I now already need to attach the bodice to the skirt. So I have the bodice piece that's going to be the outside. I had to make sure I picked the right one because on the inside we have the tag on the lining. I have my skirt piece, it's just one big piece, which is fantastic. And I don't need to finish the seam allowance because this is not going to be lined. So you do normally need to do something with the seam allowance, but as you can see, the seam is going to be on the selvage. So don't need to finish that, which means we can now straight away attach the bodice to the skirt. I'm just going to, for myself, mark the center of the skirt so that I can match that up with the bodice and then just pin the bodice to the skirt. Also find the center of the bodice right here. Making sure I also pin the darts in the direction they are pressed in. For that reason I also like to keep the skirt on the bottom and the bodice at the top when I'm sewing so that I can keep an eye on the darts and the seam allowances and make sure that they're all where they are supposed to be. And apparently my skirt is a little bigger than my bodice piece, but that's completely fine. And this side is much bigger than the other side. Again, that will be completely fine. I would prefer to have a little bit too big than too small. Okay, let's check. Great. Let's sew this. That's now one piece, and I just quickly press the seam allowance up towards the bodice, mainly because then when I put in the lining later I can hide the seam allowance in the lining. But first, it's zipper time. I'm just going to sew it on straight away. Sometimes I like to baste it into place, but I don't feel like doing that today, so we're not doing that. I think I'm gonna start with the side that has a little bit more overhang on the skirt part. Get my zipper, and I'm not 100% happy with the color of the zipper, but I already have a gigantic stash of zippers and I don't want to buy more because that seems unnecessary. So I just picked the closest color I could find. I'm going to just spin this into place. I need to start on the other side because I like to start on the side where it's most logical to start sewing at the top, if that makes sense, which is this side. Just going to pin this into place like I said. I'm going to open the zipper. Lovely, I should have done that before. Normally I do that, but okay. Let's sew this into place and then we can sew the other side. This side is now done. Let's first close up the zipper. Then I want to fold it so that I can see the other side. And then I want to make sure that I line up the waistline perfectly. So I'm going to just mark on my zipper tape here. That's where the waistline is. If this marker shows up. Nope. Let's do this differently then. Let's just use a normal pen. Okay. Then I'm going to open the zipper again. And then I find the marking that's now starting to show up. Great. And I just place it exactly on the waistline and pin that into place. And then just pin my way up and down from that point. Now I'm going to sew this side into place, and I'm actually going to start at this point and then work my way down and then work my way up. That way I know for a fact that this point will be in the right place. The zipper turned out pretty good actually. I'm really happy with the placement of the waist seam. That is actually as close to perfect as I can get it to be. And I just quickly pressed the seam. I also sewed the center back seam up all the way down. That's now done. It's time to move on to the next step of the skirt, which is the ruffle. So I have all the ruffle pieces here, and I'm just going to do what I've done a million times on my Victorian petticoat, which is sew the side seam so that it becomes one long tube. Then I'm first going to finish the hem, and then I need to gather this whole ruffle. So I'm going to sew 2 rows of gathering stitches next to each other at the top, then gather it to fit the bottom of the skirt, and then I can sew it to the skirt. But at least this time I'm doing this with a sewing machine and not by hand as I did for the Victorian petticoat. So this should be done pretty quickly. Here we have the ruffle, all done. I also quickly pressed it and I overlocked the seam allowance on the inside because there's really no other way to finish that nicely. And now it's time to put in the straps as well as the lining. That's going to be done at the same time. So I'm going to just open the dress. I've already made the straps really quick. It's just folded over twice and sewn. It's really simple. And I've added some interfacing to the parts where it's going to be sewn on, just to stabilize a little bit more. What I now need to do is think about how it's going to be when it's turned right side out, which means that I need to put the strap like this and then down, because then when you turn it right side out, it will go up. I'm just quickly going to pin this into place here. Same for the other one. And then I need to do the same for the back. Okay, lovely. Now I'm going to get my lining. I'm going to lay my lining down, right side facing up. And then make sure that I keep the straps pointing down. I'm going to just remove the original pin. Pin it into place there. Same on the other side. Lovely. Then I'm just going to pin this lining all along the neckline, and then I'm going to sew that. And when that is done, all I need to do is flip it to the inside, fold the bottom edge under, sew that to the waist seam allowance, and then fold the side where the zipper is under and sew that to the zipper, and then we are done. So I'm going to do all of that, and then I'll see you again for the review. So that's what the finished dress looks like, and I will say it's definitely more of a maxi dress on me. Not a midi dress, it hits my ankles. But it's fine, I also really like maxi dresses, and I do really like this dress. It fits me really nicely. Very simple, but I mean that's the whole point of the linen staple journey. I like that it has no sleeves compared to the other two dresses, and the ruffle is also not as poofy as I thought it would be, which is kind of a good thing. I like it when it's a little bit more subtle. Anyway, I'd say this has been a big success. I will be wearing this all the time. I also really like the color, by the way. I know it's different from what I usually do. It's not blue, but I do think it looks really nice. Next time I'm switching it up again with another color, and we're not making a dress, we're making something else. So stay tuned for that. And for now, I'm going to end this here. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.